Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Convention with the weekly comic book roundup. We've covered this week's X-Men books as well as this week's Star Wars book. Well, the new for me Star Wars title this week. Sadly, looks like the Star Wars title I would be picking up this week normally has been at least delayed due to delivery times. That said, we do have another book that was initially going to be on the roundup a few weeks ago, but yeah. Anyway, so we got this week's Avengers titles and this week's Spider-Man titles, starting with Captain Marvel number 30, which, technically speaking, released 2 weeks ago, but there was a printing error, and so yeah, couldn't really cover it because, well, like I said, printing error. That said, the new versions were brought. Copies without the printing error were delivered today to my local shop, however. So where we left off, Captain Marvel had, in the present, Captain Marvel had inadvertently sent Ove from the future to the present and was trying to find a way to at least temporarily learn magic to, well, deal with him. Doctor Strange said she failed a test, and based on all the other magic users, Carol Danvers is going to come asking you to teach her how to do some magic. Don't. At least he said that to the magical heroes. The villains. So Carol went to the Enchantress, Ove's mother, who had her steal an artifact from the ocean floor and left her there. So Carol returns to where Enchantress is, to the place in British Columbia that Enchantress is living, and explained that the artifact she got is supposed to be turned into a liquid, and then someone ingests it, and they are then permanently protected from magic. If it were to be given to a magic user, it would cut them off from magic. So, while Enchantress is working on it, she uses her psychic abilities and is able to read or hear Carol's thoughts, including the fact that, Carol's trying to take down Enchantress's future son. So, Enchantress knocks out Carol, summons Ove. Ove shows up. They talk a bit, and, well, Carol does the smart thing and removes Enchantress from the playing field for the moment. Takes a few hits from Ove, which she's able to, basically, she takes the hits, but she'll be, able to recharge her batteries that way. But he can hit pretty damn hard, and he does throw her for a few loops, but War Machine shows up, and Doctor Strange basically said, hey, Carol might be in trouble, you should probably you could probably help her. But they decide that, yeah, even though Carol did break up with him his future daughter could survive, he does kind of work. Just because you go to the future doesn't mean that's the future that's gonna happen. But she does need a power boost, so she lets Rhodey know, and, well, Rhodey gives her a nice repulsor blast, which she then uses on. Basically uses to get back to Enchantress's home, and she's reaching for the magical serum that Enchantress was making, and is suddenly frozen, unable to move. And Ove takes it from her. Figure, oh well, whatever this is, it'll probably. I'm sure that if this is going to augment your power, like what it would do for mine. And he drinks it, which completely and totally cuts him off from magic. It's described by O. It's described as losing completely using one of one's senses. But Rhodey flies Carol back, and later on she goes to visit Doctor Strange. Thanks him for sending Rhodey to help her, but he does inform her that the magical community is not exactly happy with her. Apparently, what she's done is taking away a magic user's ability to use magic is quite the sin in the magic using community. And yeah, it's explained that she basically, it would be like if you did something to someone and they suddenly became blind or deaf or were unable to or couldn't taste anything or their nerve endings went numb, etc., etc. So yeah, and Strange cuts her off basically by reminding Carol that Wanda warned her the darkest clouds the path she's on. And we get a backup story as well. So I mentioned the print error. Basically, it reprinted the middle third of the A story and most, but not all, of the backup story. In Jersey City, Scorpia is robbing a bank with the assistance of Lady Octopus, and Miss Marvel stops her while talking to Lady Octopus. Scorpia was talking to her via comm device of some type. So while Miss Marvel's talking to her, Scorpia regains consciousness and is about to attack her, but Carol saves the day. But she's having trouble with wondering, kind of trying to understand why she does what she does. And Miss Marvel is a fan of Carol Danvers, so what inspired her? So they put Carol in some regular clothes, and because Kamala's got some errands to run. And Kamala explains that all of the people that her and Carol just encountered, a barista, a local man with a little library, the proprietor of an Indian restaurant, it's the ripples of Carol's actions. Carol saved the proprietor of the Indian restaurant. And it's say the proprietor of the restaurant, who was then able to help the guy with the little library, who had books who had books that the barista used to study it with, so she could in the hopes of getting into college. So the little things can cause big ripples, and it gets Carol back. Kind of helps her get figure. Okay, all right. I get it now. I get it, and that is where the issue ends. It's also the end of the Strange Magic story. concluding with Carol and Rhodey getting back together. Which brings us to our next book, Captain Marvel number 31. Where we just left off. Come on, just rewind it for the last few minutes. Oh, yeah, Captain Marvel number 30, solid end of the story arc. And that was definitely one way to get rid of an enemy. Though he's still around, so technically... But he doesn't have his magical abilities. He cannot use magic anymore. So, it'll be interesting to see what, if anything, is done with Ove in issues to come. So, issue number 31 is really a filler issue. So Rhodey and Carol are back together, and they're going on vacation. And they decide they're doing it, like normal people. So they're going to fly down there. But keep in mind, Carol Danvers doesn't wear a mask. Her identity is a public fact, is public knowledge. So the other passengers of the plane all want to, get selfies with her, have her sign stuff, and she's kind of, it is kind of disturbing things, and the funny does kind of point this out. However, L'Oreal, Carol's half-sister, teleports onto the plane because there's a situation involving their mother on Throne World 2. Clearly, this takes place before the events of Last Annihilation. But also it turns out that Rhodey had a compact version of his armor in his carry-on. So the three of them get to Throne World 2. And while the situation is something that has been run up the chain of command by L'Oreal, she does not believe it's the biggest. It's as big of a deal to those above her as it is to her. But basically, the DNA of various Kree warriors has gone missing from the lab facility where, among others, her own would be kept. Or their mother would be kept. So they teleport in, and a scientist dealing with with samples drops her tray of samples, and it gets flushed in the waste system. The waste system being a Kree microorganism designed to eat lab waste, including the toxic stuff. They affectionately call it the sludge. Yeah, that's exactly where we're going with it. The sludge is semi-sentient, and it's been eating the DNA of Kree warriors. It turns into Marvel. It takes on the form of Marvel, and tries to get DNA from L'Oreal and Rhodey. L'Oreal and Carol combine their abilities and are able to dispel the sludge from L'Oreal and Rhodey. Then Carol basically does like a massive energy blast while Rhodey and L'Oreal are behind force fields. L'Oreal then makes one of basically making little force field bubbles for all the bits and pieces of the sludge, so it can be studied and taken care of. And so the samples were being taken back to the lab. 3 days later, because they had to quarantine, Carol and Rhodey are on their vacation on the roof of Carol's building. They've got some sand, table with sand, drinks, and a kiddie pool. So yeah, but not all the sludge was destroyed. And Sludge asks explains that Sludge did what it was told to do, and the shadowy figure explains that yes, the Sludge did excellent work, and that is where the issue ends. Like it's very much just a fairly sure we're setting up Last of the Marvels. Someone on Comics Twitter recently actually made a really good point about the whole uh, Carol Danvers War Machine relationship. It's like, okay, so we're supposed to do this great relationship, but why? They're just together. Like that's great, that's cool, but I would like to know just what it is that I mean, we get a little bit of that in number 30. She's the strongest person that Rhodey knows, and she can carry anything. Doesn't mean she has, but it doesn't mean that she has, and she can carry anything, and and she'll more than likely try to carry any and everything. Doesn't mean she has to, but yeah. It was a good filler issue. I always like seeing L'Oreal. Um, that's that's actually, like I said, I'm really happy to see L'Oreal because again, that was some, like I mentioned with Manslaughter from X Force. In last year's Empire tie-ins, we met L'Oreal, and I was honestly thinking, yeah, she's gonna get killed off in the last Carol Danvers in the last Captain Marvel tie, and she didn't. She survived. She made it through, and she's actually been popping up, and with in Kree related stuff in Marvel books, and I love that. It's not just Kelly Thompson writing her either. And everyone has this. It's like, okay, this is the character we're writing. And it feels right. The character feels. Develop when if there's something different about the character, it feels natural, like a natural progression of the fact that she has a half human, half sister. So yeah, I will say I do wish that Carol had kept the strange magic costume. It was a neat look. I mean, come on, look at that. How is that? How is that not cool? But whatever. Anyway, either way, both issues of Captain Marvel, last month's and this month's, were good. Apparently, the next story arc we're setting up is called The Last of the Marvels. I know it's supposed to involve Carol, Kamala, and I think Monica Rambeau, possibly other members of the Marvel family. Genus Vel, hell, maybe Phyla Vel, maybe even Marvel. Hopefully, that's what's being set up in the end there, especially with this shadowy figure that was telling the Sludge what to do. Anyways, moving on to our next book, we've got Miles Morales' Spider-Man number 29. Where we'd left off, the Clone Saga had Miles' Clone Saga had wrapped up. Two of the clones had destroyed one another, and one had decided and the surviving clone, well, Miles said he was going to try and help him. So, everything is just feeling really tense for him. I mean, Shift, the surviving clone, disappeared before he could make it home that night. No text from Starling. No one's talking to him even at all. He's working on stuff for school, but yeah. Also, his costume is tore up. So, but he does have a line on a potential new costume. Mainly because, and he kind of wants something new because, well, Salem wearing, costume, wearing the same costume he was, and being called a criminal while wearing it, yeah, it makes Miles want to have a different look. So, his mom almost told him to, hang up the webs, but his dad did remind him that's not who they are. So, But he goes to school to talk with his teacher. He's having trouble with an essay. But and the teacher gives him an idea, going through all the stuff that's happened, mind-controlled goblinoids, evacuated because of evil space dragons, patrolled by armed federal troops looking for vigilantes, and at home he's got a new sister and recently lost his uncle. Despite all the missed classes, he's never stopped being a hardworking, thoughtful student who does their best. So, write about how so the teacher suggests Miles writes about how he handles change and challenge and still keeps it moving. And I was like, yeah, okay, I can definitely do that. So Shift is hiding in the sewers and into school, but Miles is talking to him. But some bullies show up, and yeah. But Miles reconnects with Gank, and turns out Gank and Barbara split up. Explained it was focused more on it was like they both focused more on school. But so that night they go looking for a Shift and they find him. And turns out maybe the problem with Shift solved themselves when Billy, Miles' baby sister, sneezed all over Shift at the end of the Clone Saga. It was like, he sneezed on him, and Shift probably never washed it off. And that may have saved his life, because from what Miles can tell, Shift produced the crazy clone antibodies to fight off Billy's cold. In the process, they stabilized his cells. And Gank can get to see some of Shift's artwork. And there's some comparisons made to Shift and Frankenstein's creation. Then Spider-Man goes to pick up his new costume. And of course, the designer asked him to send pictures, and let them know if anything needs to be adjusted. So he tries it out. We get one to look at page-wise, but it's not good. From what I can tell, it's the cover to the next issue. So in a month you'll see it. Honestly, it looks good, and it kind of makes Miles feel more like his own character instead of just simply the other Spider-Man. There's a spider emblem on it, but it's not, it's not just, a palette swapped version of Peter Parker's costume. But anyway, that's it for now with Spider-Man. That's where the issue ends. Good catch up on the Fallout. I'll be honest. I will say I kind of do feel like the I feel like this is basically the issue saying, hey, how those last issues we did all these massive changes? Yeah, back to the status quo, back to normal. Especially with some of it makes sense, like Gank and Barbara splitting up because they need to focus more. They both want to focus more on school. But with Shift, it just seemed convenient. That got sneezed on by the baby sister, so he's fine. Made antibodies. Okay, we're good. No having to call up the Super Science Brigade. No, just, yeah. So, I mean, it's not the worst means of taking care of the situation, but like I said, it just feels conveniently done. And I'm glad that shit is, kind of, stabilized, but yeah, don't know. It would have been kind of neat to see Miles have to talk to the various big brains in the Marvel Science community. But anyway, moving on to our next book, and the last book for the video. Also, I think our last Marvel book for the week. We've got Spider-Man, Spider's Shadow, number 5. Alright, so where we left off, the symbiote had possessed Reed Richards. Venom Reed had made some adjustments to the symbiote using his single molecule formula, and it got a bunch of the assembled heroes who showed up to help, including X-Factor, the original 5 X-Men, and some of the Avengers. So, inside the Baxter building, and Venom Reed is trying to kill MJ because Mary Jane, Peter's love for Mary Jane is kind of what kept him from truly committing to the symbiote. So, but Human Torch gets her out of the Baxter building. Turns out the one hero present who has not been possessed by a symbiote piece is Invisible Woman, who is taking care of Franklin and getting him to the babysitter, Alicia Masters. But Sue goes to help Johnny with MJ and the symbiote Avengers. Peter does a little bit of study to figure out what's going on and realizes that if he takes down Reed, then especially if he takes down the symbiote that's possessing Reed Richards, well, that will stop the others. And while Invisible Woman is able to take down most of the others, there is one that does prove to be a bit of a problem for her: the mighty Thor. So back at the Baxter building, Peter makes a deal with the symbiote. Kind of, okay, you know what? Let everyone go. You can have me. And the symbiote, okay, that's fine. But the one thing we got to do first, I got to make sure of something, because the symbiote kills Reed, because Reed would have constantly been trying to get between them. And it turns out that that of course makes Peter quite angry, and so he runs from the symbiote. And the symbiote says, "There's nothing in the lab that can harm me. I made sure of it." But Peter lets the symbiote take him. Turns out there wasn't anything in the lab that could harm the symbiote, but there was something that could fool it. One of Ben Grimm's image inducers, which Johnny Storm put on. So when the symbiote wrapped itself around Johnny, he flamed on, destroying the symbiotes. However, Reed is still dead. Later, in kind of our little wrap-up of things, Jameson's talking with Eddie Brock, and basically, hey, I hated Spider-Man, and I built him into something he truly wasn't, and now I know he's really just a man, and he even says he's going to testify on Eddie's behalf, and his murder trial. Peter turns himself in, goes to trial, is defended by Matt Murdock, but a bunch of the other heroes who had been present and been affected by the symbiotes also testify what happened, so Peter gets off. He goes to visit May's grave with MJ, and Sue shows up wanting to talk to Peter. It's been hard, dealing with with the loss of Reed. The FF is no stranger to tragedy, and neither is Spider-Man. And so she makes Peter an offer to join the Fantastic Four. And things finish up for him with them saying that the nightmares are over for now, and the future will be fantastic. There's an epilogue, however. It turns out that Fisk wasn't killed. Horribly disfigured and injured, but not killed. And he is, of course, thoroughly beyond pissed that Peter Parker still operates as a superhero in his city. But Wesley, his longtime assistant, explains that maybe there's... it turns out they've still got a piece of the symbiote that's alive. Perhaps it could be bonded. Perhaps Fisk doesn't have to choose between getting better and destroying Peter Parker. Because, well, perhaps he can do both. And that is where the story ends. We will actually be doing a video update concerning this arc soon. Basically, in the near future. A lot of us will be comparing it to the What If, had the same basic concept. But anyway, I really liked Spider's Shadow. It was really fun, and just I loved how no matter what, certain things would always occur. Like, Eddie Brock getting involved. The fact that his secret identity became the most public of public knowledge. So on. So J. Jonah Jameson changing his opinion on Spider-Man. I will admit I guess it's more a case of just of some of the issues with the time period from when Spider-Man did out himself, as Jameson sued him for Jameson filed a suit against him, and that was kind of one of the things that, rather than deal with it one more day, happened and just never happened. So, but I really enjoyed Spider's Shadow. It had a fulfilling wrap up, and while I would love to continue seeing more from that universe, and who knows, with the way it ended, maybe we will. But like I said, it wrapped up in a way that felt like, okay, that's the story. We're done. Even though it does seem like an interesting way to end things, at the same time, I do kind of wish they hadn't had that little, hey, maybe we could do, if you like, maybe we'll do more. But whatever. Anyway, that's going to be it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.